So I used to live in southeast London, and I went to a very terrible secondary school. I just finished my day and I was waiting for my bus. I sit on the seat halfway on the left side of the bus and I'm peaceful and minding my own business. It's a bright sunny day and the bus is quite packed and everybody looks so disconnected and lost in themselves. Myself included, I'm in my own world. Suddenly, this fat white guy who is ghetto walks in. It looks like he's by himself, casually walking towards my side. I have my bag on the opposite seat to indicate basically, don't be sitting there. He sits on his seat rather promptly, and me being totally ignorant and unaware just sort of don't pay attention to him. Suddenly his hand goes into my pocket, and he puts my iPod into his pocket so swiftly. Again, I don't understand my mentality here. I'm so blissfully unaware. Then the situation takes a turn for the worse. A guy from the seat behind me appears, and he has a hold of the hood of my coat. He looks just absolutely evil. He is mixed race, and his eyes look completely black. I'm guessing he's a mix of English and like Iraqi. He is batshit unstable and is threatening to stab me. He is loud and obvious, and the robbery is happening in front of lots of ignorant and indifferent Londoners. Why nobody said anything is beyond me. All I remember is a black lady looking at me with big, round, scared-looking eyes, but does and says nothing. The guy behind me is doing all the talking. There was also two at the back monitoring the situation. I'm actually calm in the situation. He wants a phone from me. I tell him I don't have a phone. He keeps demanding, and the guy beside me tells him to calm down, but is whispering. The guy behind me says, "Don't get off the bus or I will stab you if you do." He then is demanding money, and I say I don't have much. I give him a few pounds. He's still so incredibly unstable, crazy, and all over the place, while the other guys act like this is some kind of covert operation. I miss my stop, and I'm scared to get off understandably. I get off the next stop, but before I do, I say, "Give me my fucking iPod back," and I don't understand how the bus driver doesn't give a shit. I shout it again. The ghetto white guy who was beside me says, "Get the fuck off the bus." I stumble out of the bus. I just run home crying, and my dad confronts me, and we go out to find them, but we don't succeed. This is something that has caused significant mental and emotional damage to me in my life. I developed agoraphobia afterwards and struggled to leave the house for a few months. I became resentful, fearful, and mistrusting of people. I've had severe anxiety issues, and I still do to this day. It was obviously some kind of gang thing trying to rob someone to get money for drugs. I just never forgot the lack of care or thought everyone else had on that bus. It was the summer of '98 in the hot California desert. I was 5 years old riding shotgun in my mom's crappy little convertible. It barely ran, but the seats were red velvet, the radio worked, and being able to take the top down almost made up for the lack of air conditioning. My days were normally spent at daycare or the babysitters, as my single student mom put in long hours at her job to provide for us. I didn't mind. It just meant the days like today were even more special. My mom was driving me across to the next county to my cousin's house for a birthday party that was going to be complete with dress-up games and ice cream cake. To truly seal the deal, she had taken us to McDonald's. I got a Happy Meal with a stuffed Simba from The Lion King as my toy. Our convertible eased onto the freeway, and for the most part, it was a pleasant and uneventful ride. I remember the loud noise of the cars and the hot wind. I first become aware of the truck as it lays on its horn behind us. I turn in my seat to see a huge gray monster of a truck tailgating us ridiculously close. As soon as it was safe, my mom changes to the slow line on the right of the freeway, assuming he would pass us. He pulls level to our car, rolls the windows down, and begins screaming at us to pull over. My mom ignores him and tells me to do the same. I remember feeling uneasy, but less scared than annoyed. kind of like, dude, come on, this is my day to have fun, leave us alone. I think the lack of reaction irritated the man, and maybe this was his plan the entire time. But he swiftly pulls into our lane and essentially forces us off the road onto the shoulder. My mom does her best to maintain control of the car and not to make contact with the other vehicle, but that's pretty much impossible. The unmistakable crunch of metal rings out, and both vehicles come to a stop. My mom checks to see if I'm okay and remains in her seat. Now, if I were her, I don't know if I would have waited to confront this man with a child in the car after that stunt. However, my mom has and always will be the toughest nails type of gal who isn't afraid of anything, especially when she feels she has been wronged. She had no idea what was to happen next. Angry and cursing, the man is at the driver's side door, screaming about the damage to his car and how it was caused because of food trash that had been flying out of the convertible, landing on the front of his window and blocking his view. He starts demanding compensation, that my mom get out of the car and come look at his car. At this point, my mom refuses to get out of the car. She points at a call box at a fair distance away and says it's best to call the cops and let them handle this. Not the answer angry man wanted. In one fluid movement, this man grabs the back of my mother's head and once, twice, 3 times smashes it into the steering wheel, leaving her unconscious. Lifting her like a sack of potatoes, he drops her on the side of the road and jumps into the driver's seat and starts the car up. I haven't even reacted yet. I think I was in an absolute state of shock. It wasn't until I felt the car moving and getting back onto the road that I registered what had happened. And when it hit me hard. I went ballistic. I was no longer just annoyed with this man. I was now furious for what he had did to my mother. I remember I held my stuffed Simba by the tail as I climbed out of my seat and began screaming while whipping the man in the face, trying to blind him. My battle cry was, "You're the meanest man in the world." I clawed and kicked and gave no care to what was going to happen to me, just that this man was going to pay. This led to a couple of things happening. First, I made it impossible to drive that car safely, and he ended up crashing into another shoulder. Second, by this time, people had started to see a woman laying on the shoulder, and the convertible with a 5-year-old beating up some creeper, and they began to alert authorities. I don't remember too much after that. I remember the cops coming and sitting in the back of the police cruiser. They gave me a teddy bear and asked me a lot of questions, and my grandma picked me up. My mom went to the hospital, where she thankfully didn't have any major damage, just a busted nose and some whiplash. Never made it to my cousin's party, and never saw that white convertible again. I'll always be thankful for my main man Simba, having my back through it all. I don't know what the man's intentions were. Looking back and knowing the area we lived in, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if drugs played a major part in this. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more or simply like to support my channel, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out. Until next time.